levator scapulae. All right, so the levator scapulae is going to attach to the base of the cranium, and it's going to originate on the base of the cranium and insert on the ridge on the spine of the scapula. Okay, the way that you get to it, actually, we're going to do something else first. Okay, but that's going to be one of the important muscles that you need to dissect out and be able to identify. So you'll notice on the side of your animal, and again, you only have to do one side as you're going through this, but you'll notice that there's a big sort of triangular sheet-like muscle on the whole upper part of the back. That's going to be called the trapezius maximus. And so you'll notice here, as you're cleaning, you'll see a nice little seam right there. Okay, so you're going to take your scalpel and very gently follow that seam. All right, and so you're going to do it, start from the base of where you can feel the shoulder blade here, and then just extend it all the way down to where it connects to the spine. And so once you've made your incision, you can take your blunt probe and stick it in there, and use your finger to kind of free it up from the rest of the surrounding tissue, and then the muscle that's going to be deep to that. And so the muscle that's deep to that we're going to look at is this big wing-like muscle on the side of the animal, and it's in the same position in humans, but that's going to be called our latissimus dorsi. Okay. And now, okay, so when you're freeing up this portion of the trapezius, it's important that you don't continue it up onto the scapula, okay? Because that is going to impact your ability to be able to get at the levator scapulae muscle effectively. And then, so yeah, there's a lot of connective tissue, and you're going to need to get a lot of it off to get at the biceps group and the triceps and everything here. Okay, and so for the lats down here, you notice that you have a nice layer of connective tissue and fascia that we're going to expose right through there. And so this, again, we're going to follow this seam right here. Take your scalpel, and so this you can kind of start from anywhere, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go from here. Just use that seam as your guide. Follow that all the way from the ventral side of the animal to the dorsal side. So then once you do that, and again, you don't need to be gung-ho with your scalpel, just do it as a very gentle cut, and then once you can get your blunt probe inside there, you can use it to get rid of all this connective tissue, kind of keeping it intact here, and then you can separate it from the rest of the body wall. So it should come away just like a little wing. Alright, now with this part, okay, so your cats, all tetrapods, like so dogs, cats, anything that runs around on four legs, is going to have really weirdly and highly derived pectoralis muscles and deltoid muscles. In the cats, I don't care what you do with the pecs. I'm going to actually end up cutting them off in a little bit. But they're too weird and too complex, so I don't care if you know like what they look like in the cat. But in the human, they're much simpler to look at. Their pectoralis major muscle runs over, and so it flaps over and it connects all the way down here. So it's covering the biceps brachii muscle here. So you have to get them, you have to tear them off and expose them. But we'll get to the arm stuff in a bit. I'm just kind of getting this freed up right now. Our latissimus dorsi, nice and exposed here. What we're also going to do, let's see if I can, there we go. Okay, so once you get the lats exposed like this, you should be able to fit your hand through once you've like kind of cut off the pectoralis muscle. You can stick your scissors right in there and you can cut through that. Don't worry about just the segmental nerves that you're cutting when you do that. That's just going to be all the segmental stuff that comes off the spine that's going to innervate these guys. So now you'll notice that you've got a whole other layer of muscle underneath here. So this is going to be part of your serratus anterior muscle. Now this muscle, it's going to lie directly underneath the latissimus dorsi. So your lats and your traps do a couple different things. Your lats are going to be for adduction of your arm and your shoulder joint, and the traps kind of do both that and abduction. So they're going to be able to raise your shoulders and your arms as well. So when you're going through, you'll see lots of like little segmented nerves and stuff that come off of the spine, and so don't worry about those. You can kind of cut through them. And then, all right, well, this is this. Okay, so this is why I need to clean this off a little bit more. Okay, so once you've done that, now we're going to move back to the trapezius muscle over here. So this, we're going to clean this guy up. So there's another bit of connective tissue up here. Be careful. Okay, I'm trying to remember how to do this part. Okay, actually, yeah, here we go. All right, so once you've cleared off enough of this connective tissue up here and gotten enough of it off, you'll start to see this little tiny muscle up here. You'll start to see a seam. So on the shoulder right here, and the way that you'll get at it is you take your animal and you pull the neck away like that. You'll see this little seam right here, this muscle. Okay, this is going to be part of something called the clavotrapezius in cats. Don't worry about it, we don't have it in humans. Okay, so but what you're going to do is you're going to take a scalpel and gently follow that line just from about the midline of the body and go out towards the shoulder. Once you do that, you should be able to fit a probe just underneath, be able to separate it out. And we're doing this so that we can get at our levator scapulae muscle that's going to be hiding right underneath it. So, okay. So I've followed that line down that seam that was right here. I just made a cut from about here to here on the shoulder, and then reflected that back a little bit. So can you guys see this muscle that's right here?
Yeah.
So that is going to be your levator scapulae muscle. So it's this guy right here. It's hiding just underneath that. So you reflect that back, and it's going to be this guy right here. So I've got to clean it off a little bit more before I can get it decently exposed here. Running just here, and it goes all the way down to the spine of the scapula, which is over here. So this guy right here, the little line of connective fat right there. We're going to take our scalpel and we're going to follow that. You're going to follow it until you hit your spine of your scapula, which is this big line right here, and it's this ridge. So when if you don't know where it is, you can feel it in the animal if you take your finger and go along it right there. So once you've made your cut, you take your probe. Actually, well, be sure you've done a decent cut, which I didn't the first time. Go through it again. Make sure it's nice and separated there. Okay, so now what we've done is we've separated out both sides of our levator scapulae muscle. He's got like a lot of really tough connective tissue. Okay, so this muscle right here is going to be the levator scapulae. All right, so it's hiding underneath part of the clavotrapezius right here. So you're going to find that seam first, reflect that back, and then you can get at that side. And then once you do enough cleaning, you'll see the other seam that runs along just here and connects to the other side of the spine of the scapula. All right. So once you do that, now what we can do is we can free up the rest of our trapezius from our animal here. Take this, follow it up along. Like up here, to separate out the trapezius is because the trapezius itself stops just here where the levator scapulae is on this side. Okay, so that's why you start down here at almost at the apex of the scapula, and then you can free it up just like this.
And there was a seam there, right?
Yes. Yeah. So okay, the key to this dissection is to clean effectively. Okay, so you have to make sure that you get a lot of this like fatty and connective tissue off there, or else you won't be able to see anything and you're going to be lost. Okay, so I didn't clean as much because I've done this so many times, I know where everything's at, but to help you guys, like, make sure, so spend like the first 10-15 minutes of this just cleaning. Okay, and don't just have one person doing it, have everybody in the group helping, and it'll go by a lot faster. Okay, so now what we've done is we've separated out one side of our trapezius here. Okay, so this big butterfly wing-shaped muscle right here, and then you can just reflect it back like this, and now we can get at our scapula and all the muscles on there. So remember how I told you guys to learn all the parts of the scapula, all the different fossas and stuff. Okay, so now we can learn, or you guys already know the muscles without even me telling you them. Okay, so I'm telling you this right here is the spine of the scapula. So we have the spot above and the spot below. What do you guys think the muscle is that's above the spine?
The infraspinous.
Okay, so let me back up. What's the name of the fossa that's above the spine?
Supraspinous.
Supraspinous fossa. So what do you think the muscle that's on the supraspinous fossa is going to be called?
Supraspinous?
Yeah, supraspinatus. Close. But okay. So now what do you think the one that's going to be on the infraspinous fossa is going to be called?
Infraspinatus.
Infraspinatus. Boom. Okay. So you already know two muscles just from knowing the different parts of the scapula there. Okay. So the scapula has a bunch of different muscles on it. All right. So, which is why, like, it's kind of annoying that I just kind of tore the latissimus dorsi off. So, just to remove it so that we can see the scapula and all the muscles on here better. Okay. So now, you'll notice that after you reflect back the trapezius, you'll notice that the shoulder blade kind of almost comes off here. There's this big cavity that has a bunch of connective tissue in there. You can just stick your finger in there and then clear all that stuff off. So then if we adduct the shoulder blade to look at these muscles right here, there's going to be two separate muscles right here. You've got one down here. These fibers are always really tough to take apart here. But you're going to have a set of muscles here that's responsible for keeping the shoulder blade adducted to the body. And so these are going to be called the rhomboideus complex, and you have a rhomboideus major, which is more superior, and then you have a rhomboideus minor, which is more inferior. And those will be much more apparent on the cadaver, but I want you guys to be able to dissect these out regardless, okay? So you should be able to see those. And then on the apex of the scapula, you have another set of muscles called your teres, you have your teres major and teres minor, okay? So those muscles are going to be part of the rotator cuff, and so they allow you to do this with your arm, okay, or like with your shoulder complex. So your biceps and your biceps help a lot with that, but the teres major and minor help with protraction and retraction as well. So over here, on this side of the scapula here, you're going to have your teres major, and then just underneath, it's actually underneath all this connective tissue in here. I forget if it's actually deep to the rhomboideus minor right here, but you're going to have your teres minor just under here. Okay, so that's going to be around the apex on the subscapular surface. Okay, so then our last muscle. Do you guys remember what the name of the fossa is on this side of the scapula? Yep.
Subscapular.
Subscapular fossa. So what do you guys think the name of the muscle is? Close. Yeah, exactly. That's your subscapularis muscle. Okay? So that's that one. So you have to know supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres major, minor, rhomboideus complex, and subscapularis. Your deltoid is going to be up here. So it's just this, it's a mash of like all of these muscles put together. So in order to get at the levator scapulae muscle right here, you actually have to cut part of the deltoid complex in half. So just when you look at the shoulder, just think deltoid, all right? And then what's this one again right here?
Levator scapula.
Levator scapulae, okay? So what's the function of the levator scapulae? It's in the name.
To elevate.
To elevate the scapula. Boom. All right. Okay, so now we're going to do the arm. Okay, so unlike the lower limb, I'm not going to care too much that you guys get into the forelimb of this animal. The only one I kind of care about is going to be the brachioradialis, which inserts on the radius. Okay. And so, but you're going to need to take off a lot of this fat and connective tissue here. Seam coming down the posterior side of the arm. So what do you think these muscles right here are? What group? They're going to be part of the triceps group, okay? And then, so on this side of the arm, where we're going to have to cut and reflect back part of the pectoralis muscle, we're actually going to expose our biceps brachii muscle right here. So I've got a little bit of the pectoralis minor right there sticking out. I'm going to say bye-bye to that.
That's the pectoralis minor?
Yeah. So, and in cats, part of their pectoralis muscle, and again in all the tetrapods, they have these weirdly specialized pectoralis adductor and abductor muscles that are all kind of based around the clavicle. So you have lots of origins and insertions from the clavicle and then onto the humerus, and the same thing with the deltoid complex. So that's that just helps them when you're running around on four legs, and so you can move and change directions really quickly. Okay, so once you cut through here and you reflect back this part of the pectoralis muscle, the easiest way to go about this is to take a nice chunk of it up from the shoulder side and then start cutting down towards the elbow. And when you're doing this, just be aware that you don't cut into the muscle that's on the arm. You just want to cut this stuff off, because our other muscle that we're concerned with is actually going to be hiding just on the lateral side over here. So that's going to be our brachialis. Once you do that, you should be able to cut it just off at the elbow right here. Okay, so here we have the muscles of the biceps group exposed. Oh my gosh, I actually kept it this time. Every time I do this dissection, I always, well, I'd say probably 90% of the time I end up cutting the brachioradialis off, but I actually kept it this time, so you guys get to see it. Okay. So here we have our biceps group. So on this side, we're going to have our biceps brachii. In the cat, it's going to be the most medial muscle. And then the lateral one right here is going to be the brachialis. And then this little guy extending from the humerus out here to the radius is going to be the brachioradialis muscle, just here. Yep, it's really, really tiny. If you cut it off, don't worry about it. It's okay. But try and preserve it as best you can. So, what's this one right here?
Biceps brachii.
Biceps brachii, this one. Brachialis, and then this one here?
Brachioradialis.
Brachioradialis. So just think like connected from the arm to the radius. Brachioradialis. Brachialis and biceps brachii. What's the function of all these muscles? To flex the elbow. Okay, so then the last group here is we've got to get at our triceps on this side. So again, I'm going to use my patented technique of following the seam. All right, just follow that seam from about the shoulder down to the elbow. Okay, so what we're doing is we're separating our lateral head and the long head of the triceps. Okay. So you do that, you should be able to stick your finger in there. You can separate the two of them out, and then you'll see little tiny baby muscle just hanging out right in there. That's going to be the medial head of the triceps. Okay, so the medial head is in between on the cat. The medial head of the triceps is in between and deep to the lateral head and the long head of the triceps. Okay, on the humans it's different, and I'll show you guys that. But now, I know this is human anatomy, but this I can guarantee you this is going to be a question on the final. I will pin one of the triceps muscles on the cat for the final, and you'll have to know which one's which, like which head is which. Okay, so make sure you understand that and you keep that in mind. Alrighty, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want you guys to know.
You said medial head is in between and deep to the long head?
Long and the lateral head. So basically it's just, it's in there.
Oh, it's in there. Okay.
Yeah, so can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the medial head down in there. Kind of like the vastus intermedius is deep to the rectus femoris on the leg. Same deal here, okay? So that's that. Yeah, we're not going to do like any of the extensor digitorum longus, hallucis longus, any of that stuff in the forearm of the cat, because again, they run around on four legs and they're weird, so it's really, really highly derived. Yeah, so that's the dissection. Okay, do you guys have any questions?